Hey guys, welcome to Noob To Pro, a series where I will be teaching you all the math concepts you need to know to become a math wizard. This episode, we will be learning about HCF. You might remember it from the previous episode, and the two methods to find it with a brief on prime numbers. So first, what is HCF? This is just going to be a quick revision. HCF, also known as GCF or GCD, is the highest or greatest common factor or divisors between two numbers. For example, 17 and 34. The HCF would be 17 because if you find all the factors for both numbers, the highest one common for both of them would be 17. So before we start with the example, we have to do the prime numbers. This is because one of the methods actually use prime numbers, and it is I would say the best method. It's the fastest one. What are primes? Prime numbers are numbers with only two factors or divisors, those being 1 and the number itself. If you want to learn more about prime numbers, click the link video up above or the link in the description, because I have actually made a video about it a long time back. So now we can start off with how to find HCF. So we are going to be using the prime number method here, prime factorization, also known as HCF. So the way you do this, we have the number 90 over here, and we're going to be expressing this in multiplication of prime numbers. So for 90, you can see that it ends in a 0, which is an even number, so we can divide it by a 2, correct? So we will divide it by a 2 and it will become 45. Now we see that there's a 5 over here, so we can multiply 2 by 5 now. So now that gives us 9. And remember, we can only use prime numbers, and for 9 we can multiply this by 3, and that gives us 3. 9 is not a prime number because you can divide it by 3. And then we have 3 again, so we can put 3 over here. So we have just expressed 90 in terms of prime numbers. Now we will do the same for 135. It ends in a 5, so we can put a 5 here, which is prime. Then we will divide this by 5 to get 27. Now we can multiply this by 3, and then we get 9. And as you know, we just did it. 9 is just 3 times 3, so I will just put 3 times 3 over here. And that is 135. So now what we will do, we will see what is common here. There's a 3 here and a 3 here, so there's 1 3 common. Now there's another 3 and another 3, so there are 2 3's common. And there's a 5 and a 5 common. So these are the numbers that are common. So we will remove this 2 and we will remove this 3. And this is what we are left with. 5 times 3 times 3. So we can just remove these two. We just have 5 times 3 times 3. So I'll write it in a simple way over here. 5 times 3 times 3. Now we can solve this. 5 times 3 is 15. And 15 times 3 is 45. So the HCF of 90 and 135 is equal to 45. This is the way that it is written. So now we can move on to the next question. So find the GCD, greatest common divisor, of 342 and 412, and we will be using the division method. So this one, if you are just learning HCF, is the fastest one. But if you are experienced and keep practicing these methods, the prime factorization method will actually be faster. But we will just do the division method here. This is the one I recommend for you because it is very easy to do and it's fast. The prime factorization, it will take lots of practice and it won't be much faster. It is better, but not by much. So I would recommend you practice this division method instead. So we have to find the GCD. I'm just going to say HCF. I have put this because you should be knowing GCD of 342 and 412. So this method is similar, but we don't have to use prime numbers. I mean, we should, but only in most cases. There are some times where we don't have to. But I am still going to use prime numbers because sometimes mistakes can happen here. So I see a 2 at the end of both of these, so I will put a 2 here. This is how you should be doing it for it to be very simple. So now we will divide both of these by 2. So this is going to become 171, and this one is going to become 206. So now this is where it gets a little bit confusing. So at the left we have 171, and the right we have 206, and it's not that easy to find what is common between both of these. So what we can try is just see what is possible here. I see that it's not much. So what I can do, I know that the left one is not divisible by 2, but I know that the right one is divisible by 2. So I can just divide it by 2 to simplify it, because it's not going to make it that any other numbers become, they stop being divisible. That's not going to happen. So what was the number? 206. So I'm going to replace it with 103. So I have replaced that. Now I know that this right number isn't divisible by 3 or any of its multiples. So I can simplify this number 171. I know it's divisible by 3 because 1 plus 7 plus 1 gives you 9. So we can divide this number by 3, and when you divide it by 3, I can just round it up to 180, and that would be 60. So this is 9 less, so 3 less in the answer. So it's going to be 57. You can use a calculator for this, not too hard. And it gives me 57. So 57, it's again divisible by 3. So we will be dividing it by 3. And that will be giving us 19. Now we can check if 103 is divisible by 19. And it is not. It is not divisible by 19. And 19, it is a prime number if you check. So that means we're actually done. And the answer is actually 2. So we can now say that the HCF of 342 and 412 is equal to only 2. That's it. So now we will be doing another example. We have to find the HCF of 612 and 452, and we are going to be using prime factorization. So let's start off with 612. So for this one, we can start off by 2, using 2, and that will give us 306. Now we can use 2 once again, and that will be giving us 153. So 153, this one we can divide it by 3, because 1 plus 5 is 6 and plus 3 gives us 9, and that means it's actually divisible by 9, but 9 is not prime, so we will have to divide it by 3 first. That will be giving us what was the number? 153. Yep. So that will be giving us 51, and why is there a plus sign? This is supposed to be multiplication, times 3, and we're going to multiply it by 3 again, and this is going to become 17. And if you don't know, 17 is a prime number. You can actually watch that video I was talking about earlier. I have listed all the prime numbers from 1 to 100, and that is more than enough for what we are going to be doing. So now this we can multiply it by 17, and that is the first number in primes. Now we can move on to 452, which is equal to, we can obviously divide it by 2, and that will be giving us 2 here and 26 here. Now we can divide this by 2 again, so times 2, that will be giving us 113. So 113. So we have to look here, what can we divide this by? So obviously we can't divide by 2, we can't divide it by 3, we can't divide by 5. So let's look at 7. We can see 70, so we know that 70 is 7 times 10. We can subtract that from this. You could just use the divisibility rule, but I'm just going to do this mentally. So 113 minus 70, this would give you 43. And 43, the problem with 43, it is prime. And it's not divisible by 7 because it's prime. So we are not dividing this by 7. So actually 113, it's a prime number. Yeah, so 113 is prime. Yes, so since it's prime, we cannot divide this further. It is a prime number, we can't help that. So we have 2 and 2, 2 and 2 here common. We will remove everything else, and we have 2 times 2, which is 4. So that leaves us with the HCF of 612 and 452 is equal to only 4. That's it. So that's it for HCF. This is your test. You have to find the greatest common factor of 135 and 565 using the prime factorization method. Then you have to find the greatest common divisor of 462 and 854 using prime factorization again. And then you have to find the HCF of 215 and 123 using the division method. So you can use whatever method you want, but I have chosen the hardest method for each of these questions based on how hard the method is for these particular numbers. Because if the question is harder, that means you will understand the method better. And obviously, you know the drill. Tell me your answers in the comments and I will give you the feedback. So that's it for this video. Episode 15, LCM. It comes out this Tuesday, which is the 9th of September 2025. Thanks for watching.